Hey everybody, welcome back. If you're new to this channel, then I'm Cece, I'm 18 years old and I have Tourette Syndrome. And today we are interviewing an author, Dr Mandy Barnett, about her new book. Make sure to like and subscribe and let's get straight into it. We're here today with Dr Mandy Barnett, who we're going to interview about her new book, It's Not All About Swearing. Could you give a brief explanation of what your book is about?
Certainly. Thanks for having me, by the way. Basically, it's a guide for parents. It's also relevant to teachers and to children and students who think they may have Tourette's. And what it talks about is exactly what Tourette's is and why it's important to actually get it diagnosed and how you can actually, the steps to take to do that. And also why it affects people's education and how you might help your child or the child in your class at school. And also the way that it affects people in ways other than just their actual tics, and how it's important for a parent in particular to support their child. And I think the other thing where perhaps I differ from some of the other books is that I also try to look at the fact it's not all bad news, that there's actually some positive things that come out of having Tourette's, and certainly ways in which people can work with their Tourette's and not let it define who they are or what their life is.
And what inspired you to start writing this book?
I was just looking for a lockdown project, and what really hit me was realizing that there'd been an enormous spike in cases of Tourette's that came out during and after lockdown, and because I did an online survey which was actually prompted by my daughter Angelica, who is part of a group, and the response I got to that survey was just so overwhelming in terms of the kids who felt so isolated, so miserable, so alone, that really was what made me think I've got to write this book. It's more than just what it's about my family.
What was the most interesting or surprising thing that you learned while you were writing this book?
I think it's actually shocking rather than surprising. It was how many kids, families and parents don't believe them. I think that really shocked me, because I think I just kind of assumed that everybody's families treated it the same way that we did, and to realize that so many of these young people were reporting either being told to stop making it up, or that it was just a nervous habit, or just having it ignored by their families.
What do your family think of the finished product?
I think they're just glad it's done. I think my husband, I think, was kind of pleasantly surprised that it was actually quite good. Both my son and daughter have read it at various stages in its development, and they're really pleased with it. And my daughter in particular, she's helped me a lot, which I know is part of it, is I think something else you're going to ask me about. But she's just really thrilled that I've actually managed to finish it, because she thinks it's important.
Did your family play a part in writing the book at all?
Certainly. They're in it. A lot of the parental anecdotes are about them. My son is living away from home because he's at university now, but he read the draft, and sort of I asked him if there was anything he wanted to add or change. Angelica, my daughter, particularly had a large input, because she helped me design the survey that I sent out, which gave me a lot of the responses from teens that I included in the book. So she had a material part in how it came out.
As a parent of children with Tourette syndrome, what do you think the biggest struggle that you face as a parent is?
I think it's actually not the tics, which might surprise people, but I think it's the level of anxiety that often goes with it, and particularly for those who have actually got OCD as well, which both my children have, and that can really affect them at school. And I think what struck me was the biggest issue was first of all, recognizing it myself because the schools didn't, then getting the school to actually put the right support in place. And that was particularly the case for things like examinations. I mean, one of the things I talk about in the book is the fact that my son sat some examinations before his support needs were properly addressed, and he bombed. You know, stuff that he knew, but he just couldn't actually get it out in the exam setting. And it was only after he'd got the arrangements in place that he needed that he actually went on to do okay. And I just think that it's very important, but it can take a lot of time and energy from the point of view of the parent, you know, to actually keep fighting your child's corner to get those things in place. So I think that was the hardest thing for me.
I think a lot of people will be able to relate to that point as well. What was the hardest bit of information to find while you were researching and writing this book?
To be honest, most of what I was trying to find, you can, if you know where to look, it's out there and online. I think probably the hardest thing was trying to get up-to-date information about exactly what mental health services are available for adolescents and teens, and because a lot of it actually the services themselves aren't terribly aware of. And actually, I got the information I got the most up-to-date about things like what specialists are available was actually from the Tourette's Action website. It's not otherwise through the NHS, it's very difficult to find.
Did you ever find that any of the information was contradicting? I know when I've researched things myself, some doctors will be saying one thing and some doctors will be saying a different. Did you ever come across that?
I suppose, to be honest, I stuck with the sources that I knew they were properly evidence-based and verified. So though I read some general press where it was relevant to what I wanted to actually talk about, I didn't go to those sites where people were saying contradictory stuff because I, you know, there's in the same way there's a lot of conspiracy theories about all sorts of things. There wasn't any point in putting things. I mean, I have made one point that some doctors have said, you know, is it kind of a contagion on the internet in terms of people catching tics? But I think for anyone who says that, there's equally the argument that actually you have to have Tourette's to catch tics. You know, yes, you can set off a tic in somebody who's susceptible, but you don't get Tourette's from watching the internet.
If you could say anything to my followers and subscribers, some who have Tourette syndrome and some who don't, what would it be?
I think for those who have Tourette's, I think what I would say is you're not alone, and it's a lot more common than you might realize, and certainly that other people might realize, and it is getting better understood. It's you know, it's catching up with other conditions that have been better understood for years, but it is getting better understood. And I think to those people who don't have Tourette's, it's believe people. People are not faking it. You don't fake the sorts of tics that cause you pain. And be kind.
That's such an important message, thank you. If you could tell something to your past self when you started writing this book, what would it be?
Don't do it. I have to say, it's taken over my life. I mean, you know, it started off as a bit of a project and then it became this mission.
Yeah.
I think looking at it as a longer term project rather than just getting it written, I think I originally thought of it, I just had to get it written. I realized towards the end that there was an awful lot more to it than actually just writing the book, and I wish I'd put a few more sort of strategies in place as to how I was going to manage actually getting it published and marketing, and all, particularly because, you know, I'm a real boomer and the whole techie thing just kind of does my head in. So I should have tackled that earlier, so I'm not kind of now trying to deal with it.
How long do you think it took to write this book?
To get from my first idea to the first major draft took me about 5 months. But to get it to the publishing stage, you know, to actually be able to hit the button, took me in total 15 months. I started it sort of February 2021, and I finally hit publish couple of days ago.
Do you believe in writer's block?
I think it's more of an issue if you're a fiction writer and you've got your work, maybe you've been paid in advance and you've got working to a deadline. I think for me, what I did was I defined my audience quite early on, and I set out a structure that I was going to work within. That allowed me to always have something that I could do, so that, because I don't work, I'm not very good at working, X words a day. I like to work in bursts of inspiration, but I always had something I could move on with, whether that was looking up a bit of research or pulling together some of the quotes, so that I could always do something with it, even if I wasn't feeling right writing. And if I did have a thought that I would write a paragraph, even if I didn't know where it was going to go. And that way I kept it moving. And usually I'd look back at it and thinking, actually, what I wrote yesterday was better than I thought, which was quite nice, to actually think, oh, actually, it looks okay. Because I think it's the hardest thing is if actually trying to make yourself write words when you really have no idea what you want to put down. And I know some people do, but I don't like working like that.
No.
But I didn't have writer's block as such, no.
Would you write a sequel or a follow-up book if you had the chance to?
Some people, when they read it, suggested that a more complete picture would be if I got quotes from parents and from GPs and from teachers. And I think, yes, I could, and it would present a different view. I mean, what I wanted to focus on was the view of the people who have Tourette's and my own perspective. So I think I could write another book. It wouldn't be a sequel. It would be a follow-up, book. I have to say, I think I'd like to have a few holidays first.
If you had the chance to tell the whole world one thing about Tourette syndrome, what would it be?
It's not all about swearing. And that very much informed the title, because I realised that so many people still, that's what they think Tourette's is about. They don't appreciate both the complexities and the subtleties of it, and that means they miss the diagnosis, or they miss realizing that they might themselves have it, and parents certainly don't realize that their kids might have it. And the fact that people are still getting diagnosed now in their 20s and 30s, having had tics for years, just because they don't swear, they don't have coprolalia. So I think that is the thing I would really want to say. It's not all about swearing.
Well, that is the end of our questions. Thank you so much, Mandy, for coming on and talking to us about this book. I just know that this is going to help so many people, impact so many lives, and just help all those parents out there who have children with Tourette syndrome and are just struggling or feeling a bit lost at the moment. So thank you very much for taking the time to do this interview. If people want to buy this book, Mandy, where can they find it?
So this is the book itself. This is my proof copy that I got before the book came out, which is why there's a big stripe across it. It is now available on Amazon. So I would be thrilled if anyone would like to buy it and review it, and help get the message out there.
Yeah, I thoroughly recommend. Thank you everybody for watching. Again, if you want to go and buy this book for yourself, I found it a very good read. Even though I'm not a parent, I just have Tourette syndrome myself. But even if you want to buy it for your parents, if you know anybody else who you feel like would benefit from reading this, then send them the link. I really recommend this book. I just know it's going to impact so many kids' lives for the better. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. Check out my other social media. They will be in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. If you need me, you know where I am, and I hope to see you around soon. See ya!